So our next topic is what is static and dynamic web page. Now that you have a brief idea of how web applications work and what a web page looks like, let's understand the difference between static and dynamic web page. From the name itself, you can tell that the contents and layout of a static web page are going to be fixed, while on the other hand, the contents and layout of a dynamic web page may change during runtime. So it is obvious that dynamic web pages require more work than static web pages. An example of static web page would be Wikipedia. Suppose I search Java and I go to its Wikipedia page. The contents and layout of this page is going to remain same for all users until it is changed manually. Examples of dynamic websites are blogs, e-commerce sites, calendars, to-do sites, and other types of sites which needs updating frequently. A simple way to find out whether a site is static or dynamic is that if you are interacting with it, then definitely it is a dynamic website. Dynamic websites are really expensive and difficult to create, in which they save information in the database and interacts by using PHP languages. An e-commerce website like Amazon is an example of dynamic website. You are interacting with the server through search window. It only fetches the data that you ask for. It varies from user to user. Static web pages are very simple. It is written in languages such as HTML, JavaScript, CSS, etc. For static web pages, when a server receives a request for a web page, the server sends the response to the client without doing any additional process. A web browser is used to access these web pages. On the contrary, dynamic web pages are written in languages such as CGI, ASP, ASP.NET, etc. In dynamic web pages, the contents of pages is different for different visitors. It takes more time to load than the static web page. First, a request is made to the server. Then the web server calls an application program in response to the HTTP request, and finally the program executes and produces HTML outputs. Now let's compare static and dynamic web page. We have already discussed the definition. Speaking about its complexity, as I said earlier, data in static web pages is static and do not require any interpretation before rendering. So static web pages are simple in complexity. Dynamic web pages, on the other hand, does the interpretation process, which makes data dynamic in nature and due to which dynamic web pages become complex in complexity as compared to static web pages. Static web pages are generally written in simpler languages such as HTML, JavaScript, CSS, etc. On the other hand, dynamic web pages are written in more complex languages such as CGI, ASP, ASP.NET, etc. For static web pages, data does not change until someone changes it manually, and hence data is static in nature. On the other hand, for dynamic web pages, data is first interoperated at server side, and due to which it does not remain same on every call, and this makes data dynamic in nature. Static web pages, due to static data, take less time to load, while dynamic web pages, due to dynamic data, take comparatively more time as compared to static web pages. In static web pages, generally there is no involvement of database for data redecoration. On the other hand, in case of dynamic web pages, database is used for data redecoration. I hope you have understood this topic. Thank you.